Hey everyone, welcome to r/maliciouscompliance, where people tend to get exactly what they deserve. I'm Uncle Reddit, and have I got some stories for you. If a pregnant woman doesn't have light-duty paperwork, she should be capable of doing the job as required without help. I broke this scenario down over an AITA, and was told to bring it over here because it would fit in just swimmingly. I am currently 31 weeks pregnant, and I work as a water filtration operator. Every 4 weeks, me and the other operators rotate onto the maintenance shift, where we work under this particular supervisor. We'll call him Randy. Randy likes to think he has more control than he does, and honestly, the plant supervisor just lets him think that. About a month or so ago, I was working with him, and he told me to pick up a 45-pound empty nitrogen cylinder. I politely reminded him that I was pregnant, and shouldn't be doing that. To which he responded, since I didn't have light-duty paperwork, it shouldn't be a problem. I sucked it up and lifted the cylinder and carried it to the destination, but received a pulled muscle in the process. The next day I informed the plant supervisor, and a work injury report was filed. When my statement was taken, the verbiage I used that was corroborated with another coworker that was present caused Randy to get in trouble because he knew I was pregnant and essentially caused the injury to happen. They took me to a nurse to make sure my baby was fine and that I was okay and not experience any complications from the injury. I wasn't, other than being in pain if I moved too much. They sent me back on my way, and the plant supervisor put me on desk duty for the day. Randy was livid, of course, because he lost some of his manpower on the maintenance team. He made a fuss about me not having light-duty paperwork, saying that if I didn't have it, then I should be capable of doing the work that is needed around the plant. I was capable. I just used common sense. Prior to this incident, I did my job to the fullest within the limitations of my body, which wasn't that much. I rested when I needed to, didn't lift more than my body would allow, and most importantly, I was the only female out of 7 employees, so my other coworkers were more than willing to help me if asked, which wasn't that often. So the plant supervisor called me into his office and requested that I go get my light-duty papers from the doctor ASAP. That's the only way he could protect me from getting further hurt at work. I told him I understood and made the call to the doctor's office, and picked it up that afternoon. I got the paperwork that was supposed to keep Randy quiet, and it restricted me as such. No stooping more than 2 times an hour, no climbing ladders or poles at all, no climbing more than 3 flights of stairs a shift, no lifting more than 25 pounds, no standing more than 30 minutes out of each hour, and limited contact with chemicals. These orders of course made it very difficult for me to do my job fully, as it basically limits me to either desk work or general cleaning. Now I know this list is BS because I can definitely stoop more than 2 times an hour. I may be out of breath coming back up, but I can do it. And the climbing more than 3 flights of stairs is ridiculous because that means I can't do all of my rounds. Someone else has to do the last set for me because you climb a set of stairs every time. Under normal circumstances, I would be more than happy to bend the rules here to make everyone's lives easier. But honestly, since he's the one who complained and moaned for me to get this paperwork, I plan to make full use of it. So far, since I've received this paperwork, I keep a checklist of all the things I can't do and fill it like a bingo card. If I fill all of the things, to the office I go because that means I can't do any more physical work on shift, and he has a bad habit of tossing a lot of work my way in the beginning of my shifts. Yeah, it sounds like Randy just likes to be kind of difficult. I've had a lot of bosses that way. This lady wanted a fresh donut, so I gave it to her. So I wasn't sure if this was malicious compliance, and I posted it in Entitled People, but someone said this would be great here. So here it is. Also, thank you to r/ on YouTube for making me realize I have so many stories to share. Here's my story. When I was 15, I got my first paid job working for the fair. It was a pretty big fair that traveled across Canada and along the east coast of the US, ending in Florida for Christmas. If you've ever been to the Pacific National Exhibition, Canadian National Exhibition, Red River, Calgary Stampede, and whatever they call it in Edmonton and Regina, that's the one. I loved this summer job because it was short, only a week as I didn't travel, and gave me enough cash to get through the summer. I worked for the privately owned donut vendor, which tasted better and paid better than the show donut vendors. Fast forward 4 years when I decided to travel with the show. I was 19 and it was easier to travel at this point because I could sign my own forms, and being 19, I needed more money for school and the like. We started in my home city and make our way across the country visiting city after city. We were in Edmonton when our story really begins. Now, the travel crew is pretty small, and we hire our bagging/cashier locally. I, along with the senior crew members, are in charge of training the baggers, re-oiling machines, switching out the dough canisters, and making sure they're running and putting out donuts in a consistent manner. As I am checking dough levels and teaching a bagger how to efficiently fill bags for the evening rush, I hear a commotion behind me. Cue entitled woman. Karen.
No, I want the fresh ones.
Bagger. Ma'am, these are fresh. I just made them. Karen.
No, I want them to be fresh. Make me new ones. I didn't see you make those. They could be old.
It was 9 in the morning at this point. Most donuts are made to order, so those donuts wouldn't have been older than 5 minutes. The bagger calls me to turn on his machine to start the donuts. These machines are so temperamental and really old because the owner built them himself many moons ago. But I love them because they make perfect donuts that travel in a circular conveyor belt in a 400-degree oil. They're a lot of fun to watch. I start the machine and scoop out the first few rejects and make 15 donuts. The donuts fall off the belt into the glass case, and the bagger slots them into the sugar and into the bag. He hands them to her, and she dramatically sighs. Karen.
Ugh, no. I want the fresh ones, and those have touched the old ones. How do I know you didn't mix them up? I don't believe they're fresh. I want fresh donuts.
Bagger. Ma'am, those are fresh. I made sure to pick only the new ones out. Again, she huffs and puffs, so I fire up the machine again, scoop out the rejects, and make 15 donuts. This time I grab the new bag and place the bag right under the chute so the donuts have no choice but to fall into the bag. They do. I hand it to the bagger and walk away just to have to turn around again.
Karen. No, I want the ones directly out of the oil. That way I know they're fresh. Those ones have cooled down and are not fresh anymore.
Me. Sorry, man, but that is against the policy. The oil is 400 degrees, and besides, they're not done cooking.
Karen. I want the fresh ones. Get me your supervisor.
My supervisor is off doing supervisor things, and I don't feel like calling her. She's also a lifer and doesn't take flack from anyone, and I know if I call her and she's busy, this woman will leave crying. So to avoid this, I say, I am the supervisor on duty right now, and the policy states we can't give you donuts from the oil. There is no policy, but it's common effing sense.
Karen. I have been a patron of this company for so many plus years. I have never been denied a fresh donut. This is so unprofessional. I want to talk to the owner right now.
At this point, I'm on day 5 of this show, and we work an hour before open to an hour after close, depending on the show and after some new laws, roughly 16 hours daily. I'm tired of her in general. That's when I get a brilliant idea, and I smile. Me. There's no need for that. I'll get you your fresh donuts. I start up the machine again and discard the rejects. I then grab a bag and let the donuts plop into the oil for half a second and scoop them out immediately. Not long enough to get hot, but also not long enough to hold a shape. I then take the bag of dough and sprinkle in some cinnamon sugar and say as sugary as I can muster, "Here you go. Sorry for the inconvenience. Enjoy the rest of your day." She smiles smugly, having thought she got her way. About 10 paces later, she stuck her hand into the bag, and I hear a squeal, a snarl, and then a swearing. That's when Greg, not his real name, one of the senior machine guys, returned from his break. Greg was a effing legend when it comes to dealing with Karens. He makes it a hobby to seek them out for fun on his breaks so he can tear into them. He once told a heavy customer in a scooter he would not sell her 50 bags of donuts because he didn't want to be responsible for her coronary and could not have that on his heart, and that she should take her business to the other donut stall. He can be quite savage. I don't condone his behavior, and sometimes he scares me, but this is also why I like working under him, because it means Karens never get away with their crap. The woman came storming back in and demanded a refund, and demanded that I be fired. He asked why, and she screamed,
"That bee sold me a bag of dough!"
Greg asked me if that was true. I smiled sheepishly and said yes, and explained that she did not want the fresh donuts off the belt. She wanted the fresh donuts from the oil and would not leave till I gave them to her. Greg turned to her and said, "Sorry for that, but we don't issue refunds to dummies. So take your fresh donuts and leave before I start pelting you with these donuts. You have 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3. She tried to huff and puff, at which point he took the bag of donuts she did not want and began pelting her with them. After she left, he told me he was proud of me and would let the boss know. I got an extra $100 in my per diem for that week. Girlfriend tells me to get lost? Don't mind if I do. Or, how I taught my ex not to break up unless you mean it. I was recommended to post this story here by a friend who had me retell the story during a nightly gaming session. For those with better things to do, and I don't blame you, a too long didn't read is at the bottom. Let's set the stage. This story takes place a little while ago. I was a young university student, 24 male, dating a beautiful girl, Hannah, 23 female, who I believed I would be marrying in the next year or two. While Hannah and I didn't meet under the best circumstances, our relationship kicked off and was passionate nonetheless. We seemed to get along just fine. We spent most of the time in Hannah's apartment, not far from campus, where I'd spend the nights since I was commuting to school. This story takes place about 16 months into our relationship. Before I go on, I should mention that both Hannah and I had some rough relationship troubles prior to meeting one another. She was seeking help for her mental health, but stopped about 6 months into our relationship. Mental health issues that culminated in her cheating on her previous partner. I was no angel either. A medical scare 3 years prior put me in a depressive state that also led me down a similar path. However, after some major life changes, I found myself dedicated to my future career and to my relationship. Hannah and I were very open about our past and talked very often whenever there were issues, or so I thought. But this story isn't about a happy couple, and you, my dear Redditor, are here to read about spite and malicious compliance. Cut to the fateful night. I'm cuddling Hannah in her bed after she experienced an emotional scare, when she begins a discussion about exes and boundaries, relating to her ex texting her that evening. We discuss people propositioning others in relationships, leading to me admitting to Hannah that one of my coworkers was interested in me, but I turned them down earlier in our relationship. Hannah flips, asks why I never told her sooner, demands to see my phone, attempts to extract messages from it, and then tells me to go home. In her mind, me not telling her meant that I had led my coworker on. Spoiler alert, I didn't. Kicked out of her place, I slink home wondering what I did wrong. Hannah doesn't want to talk that night, and the following day she tells me she's not ready to talk either. She only tells me that she's taking the week to herself to think this over and that I shouldn't text her. I'm compliant. I wait. Despite an awful week involving a family member's emergency surgery, followed by a major exam, I refrain from texting her. It's what she wanted after all. 6 days later, and she asked me to meet at a coffee shop halfway across the city. Cool, I'm compliant, so I make my way down. She shows up. So do 4 of her friends. They all sit down, and the first words out of Hannah's mouth are, "So, how many other women are there?" She believes I've been cheating. She believes I've been flirting with women behind her back, and that somehow I had a long list of concubines, all because I refused to sleep with a coworker and brushed it off over 12 months ago. I made the mistake of trying to defend myself, which only made her more angry at me, and resulting in her friends telling me to get lost and never come back. My last words to her were, "If you're serious, I'll go, but the minute I walk out that door, don't expect me to come back." They were met with a final, "You should leave," by her and her friends. I go to the hospital, visit my relatives, come home, game with friends, and go to bed. The next morning I wake up to a text from Hannah. It reads, "We're done." I'm hurt and really can't make heads or tails of what just happened, but I know I need to respect her decision. I'm also just a little angry that she believed I cheated on her, despite my dedication to the relationship. Now, dear reader, if you made it this far, then in the wise words of Anakin Skywalker, this is where the fun begins. Later that night, I receive a text from her friend. It's long-winded, asking me about my side of the story and what happened. Obviously, Hannah ran to them to say what happened, and this friend was trying to mend burned bridges. I don't reply. I was told to get lost. I am compliant, and I respect her decision. We're done. I block her friend. The following morning, I receive a text from her mom, explaining that this was all a big misunderstanding and that Hannah wants to talk it through, and that I should come over. I reply, saying that I'm helping my family member recovering from surgery, and do not text me again. I am compliant, and I respect Hannah's decision. A few hours later, I receive a message from her sister, asking what happened since Hannah has been distraught and crying all day. She begs me to call and talk to Hannah, who is begging to clear up this misunderstanding. I ignore and block her. I am compliant, and I respect Hannah's decision. The next message comes from her mom again. Hannah had stolen her phone and sent a long message about how I'm ghosting her by not replying. I blocked that number too. I'm not ghosting, I'm being compliant. She said get lost, and so I did. The following day, her friends repeatedly try to call me. Each one is ignored and blocked. Finally, I get a text from a number I don't recognize. It's Hannah from her burner phone, telling me how this was a misunderstanding. She doesn't apologize, but does state that this ghosting is childish. I blocked that number too. I'm compliant and respectful, and since she said we're done, we're done. I want to say that this story ends here, but it doesn't. A month passes with no contact from Hannah at all, until I log into Reddit and see a message from a brand new account. The message is from Hannah, who goes into detail about how my ghosting has resulted in multiple mental breakdowns, resulting in her hospitalization, and that my family and friends are idiots for supporting me. She demands that I reply instantly, and that I help her through this because that's what good couples do. I don't reply. I simply block and ignore. I'm compliant and I respect her decision. This time, however, Hannah won't stand for it. I wake up the next morning to my Reddit account deleted. During the night, Hannah had deciphered my password. I had used her Wi-Fi at her apartment, and I remember logging in once on her laptop and deleted my account. Being a dumb university student, this required me to change all my passwords and logins, as I was silly enough to keep them all the same. What followed was a call to a lawyer and her family. Honorable mention at this time to Reddit admin, who followed up by reinstating my account, minus prior messages and chats. Her dad answered the phone. He explains to me that, as before, our argument was all a misunderstanding and that we can patch things up if I just talk to her. I tell him that she broke up with me, to which he's surprised. I take it she never told him the full story, and told him that my accounts had been hacked by somebody at her IP address. I tell him that if she contacts me again, I will be involving a lawyer and the police. I hang up after that, not giving him a chance to reply. If you've kept reading until now, dear Redditor, then I'm sorry to say there's no climatic ending to this story. I didn't hear from Hannah again afterwards. As far as I know, she's dating someone new who ironically looks exactly like me, and who I hope won't have to deal with this either. As for myself, I dedicated my time to furthering my education, and in doing so, met someone who treats me with the love and care I believe I deserve. I have some inkling, at some point, Hannah might try to message me again. Throughout our relationship, she was notorious for texting exes to try and discuss how their relationship went. But for now, I sleep soundly knowing I was a good boyfriend who did exactly what she said. I was compliant, and I respected Hannah's decision. I got lost and never came back. Too long didn't read. Girlfriend of 16 months believes I cheated, assembles a group of friends to confront me, and then tells me to get lost. To her surprise, I agree and respect her decision by ignoring the numerous attempts she makes to rectify this misunderstanding, which concludes hacking my Reddit account and me contacting a lawyer. You broke your leg? Use the stairs. So I broke my leg a couple days ago, and normally I would use the elevator to get to different levels. However, only the main building has an elevator. So for the two side buildings, I still need to use the stairs. Now, teachers know this and changed all classes to the main building until I'm healed. Now on to the story. We had our physics lesson in the main building, but the teacher was sick. So we had to go to the third building because the replacement didn't want to teach in the main building. I told her I could not get up those stairs because of my leg, and we would either have to use the class on the ground floor or go to the main building. She did not accept this, using the logic, I just saw you walk. I can jump about 5 meters on one leg. You can get up the stairs. At first I didn't want to and thought of just sitting down, but then I wanted some malicious compliance. I went up the stairs. And fell. A lot. Nothing too serious, it didn't hurt or anything, just a couple of bruises on my arms and other leg. She was glad I could make it. However, I thought if I can get up these stairs, I can get up every stairs. So I did, and every time, a teacher would ask me why I didn't take the elevator. I said replacement teacher said I can climb stairs, so I do. After 2 days, every teacher hated her for making me suffer this much. And then I started using the elevator again. Too long didn't read. Replacement teacher says I have to climb stairs with a broken leg. I make every other teacher a hater.
Alright folks, that's all the stories we have for you today. If you like our content, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Have a great day.